Let's go. Hello,
Cheerleader.
everybody. Happy Sunday, Sunday. Thanks for joining us. How are you? Hope you're all having an amazing week. We are chit-chatting across the nation today. We're all kind of spread out again. So anyway, we've been talking about what we're going to talk about today. And I was telling the ladies, I've always been a big fan of the Harry Potter books first. The movies are great too, but definitely the books are my fave, some of my faves. And I was re-listening to book one a couple of weeks ago. And as I was coming to the end of that book, I heard a line that really, like when I heard it, I'm like, I've heard that line before, but for whatever reason, it really intrigued me. And the line is, so it's at the end of, if you've read the Harry Potter books or seen the movies, at the end of book one, Harry has had his first encounter with Lord Voldemort. And Harry is speaking with Professor Dumbledore. And so they just have this whole conversation about death. And Dumbledore says to Harry, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. And that's the line that really, like, my ears picked up on that. And I was like, wow, that's an interesting thought. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, Lena kind of jumped in when I suggested that. And she's like, well, my mind is not well organized. So I guess that's the first thing I want to talk about is, what does that mean to have a well-organized mind? Does that mean that you have a peaceful mind? Does that mean that you're spiritual, that your maturity is, like, you're emotionally mature? What does that mean to you guys?
I imagine everything is in place. In that quote, everything is in place. Like, you know how they say your mind is a reflection of your environment? So if everything is not in place, it's scatterbrained, it's all over the place. And so when I imagine that, I think of me personally. I'm like Carolina, my mind is scatterbrained. How do I feel about that?
To me, I guess, yeah, I can relate to what you're saying there. I guess to me, it's about, I think at the end of the day, it's about peace, peace in my heart, peace in my soul, peace in my mind. We lost Lena for a little bit.
I do not know.
Lena,
I
we're
don't have one of
just
those.
kind of talking about, what does it mean to have a well-organized mind? So that's what we're talking about. Like, what does that mean to have a well-organized mind in relation to thinking about death? Because again, the line is, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. So what does that mean to have a well-organized mind?
Think that I could add to this by what I would like it to be like to have a well-organized mind, because I really do feel scatterbrained all the time in life, just in general. And when it comes to death, I would like to think that.
Darn it.
Well, that sucks. I do want to say something. I think that when you said a well-organized mind and thinking about the saying going on into death, it's like completion. It's like you said, peace and completion with everything. Everything is taken care of, so the next adventure is ready to go. There's nothing lingering and holding you on, holding you back.
So is it preparation then for death? Is that what leads to a well-organized mind?
Probably.
Well, don't we plan? Don't people get wills? And I have a trust.
Huh?
I am trying to prepare my son, and I am trying to set things up so that way I can leave something for my kids behind, some kind of a preparation. But that's not what I think about when I read that quote. For me, it was spiritual. Am I prepared? Am I doing according to God's will? Have I learned enough in order for me to ascend to, I don't know if it's heaven or heaven on earth, but that is what it is for me. When I've heard of people who have claimed to have visited hell and stories that you hear in the Bible and stuff, like that scares me more than death itself. So how can I be prepared in this life in order to transcend to my next? If that is a life, or is it just a place, a being? I don't know what that's going to look like.
So I guess that kind of leads well into, like, the next thought within this line is, can you really ever feel ready for death?
I think some people are. I don't feel as though I am right now, because I feel like on the physical aspect of it, my kids are not prepared to lose me. But I think there are people who, like, I've lived a great life. I've done things according to his will, if that's what they believe in, or, I've done great things in my life for my family. I've left them things, or even if I didn't leave them anything, I was a great person. So I do think there are people who are like, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I definitely know people who are not afraid of dying, which is really interesting. Like they're at peace with their lives and what they think may come next, what they believe may come next, and their spiritual beliefs. I think for me, a well organized mind is just being in the flow of things. We listened to a talk earlier this week about surrender, and I've been thinking about that a lot, about how I, personally can just get distracted with a lot of different things and wanting to think things are going to go a certain way, or wondering about things that we probably aren't going to get answers to. Like there's certain things that it's just like unknown, and maybe we'll find out what it's all about after we leave this earth, or spirit goes. But similar to what you said, Shannon, of, am I living in tune with myself, and my spirit, and according to what I believe that, God wants, for us here on earth. And, is it possible to create heaven here on earth? I think so, in a lot of ways. And maybe that's the goal, is to live, in his will for me. And I definitely don't feel like I have a well organized mind a lot of the time, though, being part of this earthly world.
Mhm.
So getting pulled in a lot of directions.
There's a lot
I
of
know, but it feels good when, you feel organized. Like Shannon, I would consider you somebody who's is very organized. You're working on plans, and you have all of those plans in place for your kids, and Paula, you as well. Very organized. But I think that happens also with good practices. Like you have consistent practices and are dedicated to some of those. So I know when I do that consistently, I feel like I a little more well organized in my mind. And it's
I
been
will
good.
tell you, my space is not well organized right now. My brain is not either at times. I've had to watch and learn from my parents on how to get organized in preparing for my passing, but my current life is kind of all over the place.
I think we learn a lot about being well organized for death from our parents. Just seeing that with my in-laws and how heavy that is if the end of life plans aren't made. So my husband and I do talk a lot about making arrangements for end of life, arrangements for our children, arrangements for our finances, arrangements for where we want to be buried, picking a lot, picking the tombstone, if that's the right word. Like
Mhm.
all these little details that you don't want your kids or your family members to be like, well, she would have liked this, she would have liked this, and like create like a bickering, just create any kind of unnecessary, not
Tension.
drama, but just any unnecessary tension or just basic communication about details that at the end of the day, they do not matter. It does not matter how everything looks. I've always said that a funeral is not for the person who has passed. It's
Yeah.
for the people that have been left behind. That is what a funeral is for. And those details should be in place so that the people that are left behind can grieve. And so I just we still, like I said, we talk about it a lot, but we don't have anything in writing. And hopefully when Aaron and I speak, my husband and I speak about these things, hopefully somebody's listening. Because like I said, we don't have it in writing. I don't have a well-organized mind when it comes to putting things down on paper, setting things in stone. I have a lot of ideas and I have a lot of hope for how things should go. But I don't know, spirit lead me where my trust is without borders. Like, that song Oceans that I sent you guys, like, I just have to believe that the Lord will guide and provide when it comes to the end of my life, and that there will be an understanding amongst my immediate family members, even if it is unspoken, that we will be guided and protected, like you always say, Paula.
Guided and guarded.
Yeah, that too.
So let me ask you a question, Carolina. With these conversations that you're having with your husband, is there a conversation about sitting down with the kids? Because you have 4 children. Is that part of the conversation of actually like sitting down as a family and saying, this is what mom and dad want?
We have not had that conversation. And
And that's
like
a
I
hard
said,
conversation with
hopefully,
young kids.
yeah. And that's why I said, hopefully, when Aaron and I are having these conversations, they're listening. Somebody's listening and like picking up on it. Because I do make little comments here and there. Like if I hear my favorite song or something happened in a certain situation, I'm like, you guys remember this song. I really want the song played at my funeral.
Write it down, girls. What's your favorite song?
I forgot. In the moment, I
What?
know what it is.
When I hear it, I know that that's my favorite song.
And when I hear it, I know that's the song that I want to be played. that I want played at my funeral. It's not necessarily my favorite song, but it's a song that I would love to hear at my funeral. Probably
Erin,
Ocean.
okay. Erin, you have young kids too. So
Teenagers, yeah.
do you and your husband talk about the end of life?
Yeah, we have. I think mainly centered around our parents. Probably my husband's parents, have got everything all organized and planned out and ready and done. Mine do not. And we've had so many conversations about that. And it's hard for me because it's not an easy topic to bring up at all. It's like, I don't know. I finally came to the point of just being really direct of like, none of us are getting out of here alive. Like we're all going to be exiting someday, and I want to know what you want. I really would just I want all of us to just do what you would like to have done and not just with a service. I would like to know that, but just with all of the belongings and like, what are your wishes? Like, I don't want to have to sort through everything and try and divvy things up among family members and try and sort that out and have to go through the courts. And, because I understand that's a pretty big headache going through probate and all of that. So I've tried to bring it up in that respect. And there's not been a lot of movement, and I don't know if
Mhm.
it's, a fear or if it's, I don't know, kind of kicking the can down the road of like, oh, there's going to be time. And I think I'll never know when we're gonna exit. Those
Mhm.
conversations got me thinking about I've definitely written some things down, but I really want to get something formal in place for our kids too, because it's so funny. I thought about this when they were born, like, "Oh, we need a will and a
Mhm.
trust," and, all of those things, and here we are, they're teenagers. So time goes by so fast.
Yeah.
So and Shannon's been really good about reminding us, so we should get a deadline and
She's
just
so
do it.
organized.
So
One of
go
the
ahead.
cheapest things that you can do is do a POD. It doesn't cost you anything to do that.
Yeah.
Get your payable upon death, contact your savings account, your checking account, and leave that money to somebody. And keep in mind, if you have your own account and your husband or wife, they don't automatically have access to that account because you guys were married. You're going to have to go to probate for that too. My mom has about $7,000, $8,000 hung up. She put my sister payable on death on every single account but that one. But it would cost us $6,000 to hire a lawyer. So now that $7,000 is just sitting there. So
Mhm.
that's the one that only takes a phone call. And I would do that. I would leave, like, even if I had a joint account with my husband, I would say he's also payable upon death and also list my kids. But
Mm.
we have so I actually have my trust. This is my office. This is my trust for our audience. This is my trust. It has my will. I've updated a few times. Two people that are online with us right now. Carolina, she has access to, I don't know if you know this, Carolina,
Yeah,
but
we talked about it.
she has access to get all of my medical information. If something happens and, they can call Carolina and they can talk to her about my wishes. And Savvy is, I think, the third person as my executive. My parents are first. So, and I talk to my kids about this. My daughter knows that she's getting a house and I remind her, what do you do with the house? Mom, I hold on to it. It generates an income. All right. QL, you have the car. I already have a title sign over for the car. All he has to do is take it to DMV. So he doesn't have to fight anything. So, Carolina, when you were talking about making things easier, I don't want them to fight with anybody. Even if this book were to go up in flames, I've sent an email out to everybody. This is the lawyer. They have the original copy.
Mhm.
'Cause I
That's
don't
smart.
want them to worry about anything.
I've seen that happen with family members too, with other deaths in the
Mhm.
families and on, my husband's side, my side. And I don't want that, and I don't think I will have that. My sibling, we get along really well. So I think it'll be okay. But I just don't want to go through the brain damage of it,
Yeah.
having to
I
go
have a
through that.
really stupid question.
The what?
I have a really stupid question. Do you think that things that you write in your journal will hold up in court? No.
I hope my
No.
journal
No,
doesn't.
but I hope. I was writing in my journal today. I haven't written in my journal since the end of February. Every time I write in my journal and I start talking about people, I'm like, think about this because if you die, somebody's going to read this.
I think about that too.
Every single time, I'm like, how detailed do I need to get here? Because my kids are going to read this. Like, I'm really frustrated in life, and I have some mental health things that go through my mind and stuff that I hope that we'll be able to talk about in a next episode soon. But I write that stuff down, and all my kids going to be like, wow, mom was really going through this. Or mom really did love this person. Mom really did have a hidden passion or love for this, and these were her dreams. And so I do, when I journal, I do think about the audience, and I hate that because I want to freely write.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's
All right.
crazy
So
how a journal can be held up in court for criminal proceedings, but it can't be held up in probate court.
Yes, exactly. Like, that's what I was thinking is like in crimes, like in criminal law, anything in writing and that person's writing, like it can be used against them, but we can't write in our journal. Like, if anybody's reading this, please don't put Phoebe down if she loses a limb. I mean, I don't know. Phoebe's my dog.
you know what? I
Like,
don't
this
know,
whole
Carolina.
thing.
Maybe. I don't know. We could ask Google.
Yeah.
Can a journal be used in probate court? I don't know.
What
Maybe
about you,
so.
Paula? Do you have stuff in order, in place?
No. I mean, legally, you mean?
No.
However,
No, I mean, I remember when I was in my early 20s and I was working, I worked as a legal assistant. One of the attorneys asked me if I had my will, and I was like, well, I don't really have anything. At that time, I didn't even own a house. And he was like, but you have a daughter. And he was like, you need to have something in writing. And that was, 30, well, my daughter's 31. So like 25 years ago, and when Lizzie was just a little girl, and I still haven't done it. So I think it is something that we avoid. I think because there's, Erin, you mentioned it earlier. I think, there's a great fear for a lot of people behind the idea of death, because death is the ultimate, loss of control, and human beings very much like their control. So I think this avoidance is a way of not wanting to acknowledge the fact that there are aspects of our life that we have absolutely no control over, and when we leave is one of them. Miss Savvy?
When you said that, it made me think about death as a metamorphosis and not so much as death. Like, life is in everything and continues on in everything. And we don't know what death looks like. Like, we're afraid of, because we have the unknown. We don't know what it looks like. But I see it as a metamorphosis of transforming into another something greater, but just another,
Adventure, as the quote says.
yes, another adventure, as like you said in the book, of that quote.
there is this quote that I saw this week that said, "You only live once." There's two people sitting and looking at a sunset, and it says, "You only live once." And the other character says, "No, you live every day. You only die once."
Love that. I've heard that
Oh, I
too.
love that.
I
Yeah,
just heard that the other day. That's so interesting you're bringing that up.
must have been circulating.
Or maybe you sent it. I don't know. It's so true. We live every day and we get stuck in the routine. We get stuck in a routine. Another quote I heard, or I think we talked about this, was there's two things in life that are certain: taxes and death. I've heard that many times, but I think, did we talk about that today, Savvy? Yeah. You gotta pay your taxes.
Or they come and get you.
So
Something.
I think about this quote about, this idea about being organized. And I really think that that comes down to accepting the fact that we have absolutely no control of when death will happen. And I think that we've had conversations amongst our group where we've said we're not really afraid of dying. Death doesn't necessarily frighten me. I guess the matter of death scares me a little. Like I don't want to suffocate to death, or I don't want to have a painful death. If it can all be helped, I don't want to have a painful death. But I think the idea of an unfinished life, or a life not well lived, to me is more frightening than the idea of dying. And I think that's what an organized mind is to me. Like,
Oh, I like that.
how do I feel right now about the way that I have lived my life? So it's not so much, again, it's not a fear of dying. It's a fear of, am I living this one precious life that I have? Whose quote is that? What will you do with your one wild, and what is that quote? Does anybody know it?
Where is it from?
Somebody Google it. How will you live, or what will you do with your one wild something life? It's a famous quote, and I can't think of who said it. So anyway, so I want to talk about that, because I think this idea of an organized mind really comes down to, how do I feel about the way that I'm living my life every single day?
I love that, Paula. I think when I think of you and how you how I observe that you live, you do that too. You take action on the things like your dreams and are going after them. You travel and you've got your list of places you want to go and you've been making it happen. And even at times where you've gone solo, and wanted to do
Mhm.
it that way too. And I love it. I'm like watching that and admire so much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. No, but what you're saying really does make me think about, my lists of things that I have that are not organized, that the dreams that I have and how do we take action on them? How do I want to? We can
Hmm.
get stuck.
I really love that too, Paula. I really love how you said that. Just organized thought for life, for life well lived. And so that makes me think of like in 2020, everyone was so afraid of getting sick because we thought we were going to die. And I just kept thinking, like, it's scary to die alone. Like that during 2020, like, I just don't want anybody to suffer alone. And that's what was so hard about thinking about death is that so many people were dying alone. And that just broke my heart. But when you think about being in a line with your creator, being in a line with God, all of a sudden that fear of like dying alone or that fear of just dying in general kind of went away for me. But then the heaviness came in with like the worry
Mm.
of people being alone. And I remember saying that so much, just don't be alone. Like,
I
it's okay.
remember. Yeah.
Just don't be alone.
And I think, you and I have had this conversation about our mother because as you ladies know, my mom is living with me but she's continuously talking about going back to Chile, going back to her house, going back to her country
Going
and our going home,
home.
going home.
Yeah.
And our biggest fear as sisters is that she will go home and she's not in the best of health. She won't take good care of herself and she will die alone. And then all the yucky stuff comes to my mind. Like, what if nobody finds her? Like, what if nobody checks on her? Because you hear about that with the elderly of who live alone and they don't have
Too
anybody. And then all
often.
of a sudden somebody's like, gosh, that mailbox is really full. Maybe we should do a wellness check on Mr. So-and-so. I'm afraid that would be my mom if she left. And honestly, I mean, we would be calling her like every day, but the thought of that happening, like you said, the thought of my mom dying alone breaks my heart.
We all
Any
die
of my, not
alone.
just my mom, all of my parents.
We all die alone.
Well, we do. You're absolutely right. And, and if she closes her eyes at night and doesn't wake up in the morning, that's a beautiful death. And I hope that will be the way that she goes. But if she falls outside and hits her head and has a stroke out in the middle of the yard and nobody's aware and she's there for 2 days
That
and
is
things
the
like
scariest part is I agree with you is not knowing,
the unknown, of course.
laying there suffering, not being able to get help.
Yeah.
Or you,
She fell and she can't get up.
yeah, you're already passed away, but no one's
Just
going to find
standing
you
you
for
out.
days, weeks. I did send you some quotes, Paula. I don't know if any of those are the quotes.
Oh, let me see. Yes, that's it. Tell me, what is the plan? What what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Who is Mary Oliver? Who's Mary
I don't,
Oliver? I thought it was
I don't know.
somebody else. But yeah,
That
that's
almost sounds like a line from Winnie the Pooh.
She was a writer.
Carolina,
Yeah.
you're not using your mic?
No, I had to switch over to my phone.
Oh, okay. That's why you sound kind of distant.
In and out.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, in and out. So what else, ladies? Any thoughts about this quote?
Which
So
one? The Oliver one, or are we going back
no, the
to?
quote that we're talking about, to the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. So I've had this conversation. I guess I'll keep talking because I can talk. I've had this conversation actually with one of my cousins about not being afraid of dying because she's like, I'm excited to see what comes next. Nobody gets to come back to tell us what's on the other side. And she's like, I'm excited to see what comes next. So that's the next great. I know, we all have different spiritual paths and to some of us, the belief that we get to go to heaven and live in paradise forever and ever.
Or we wake up and we're out of the matrix.
Red or blue, red or blue.
You're like, oh my gosh, it was a simulation the whole time, and I can't even go back
Right.
and tell anybody.
Do you ever think
Oh
about
my
that?
gosh.
Thinking about the human body and maybe we're all just like little cells in this body or like
Yeah.
just some kind of system. Yeah, a matrix.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
just finished reading another really good book. It's called Twice by Mitch Albom. He's Albom, is that the right? He wrote Tuesdays with Morty.
Maury. Yeah,
Maury.
Maury.
So he wrote this book called Twice. And in the story, he has the power to kind of go back in time, but only in times of his life. Like he can't go back to like the JFK assassination. So just moments in his own life, like if he said something stupid and it hurt somebody's feelings, or, if he's just unhappy with an action, he says twice and he can go back to a certain point and fix that mistake.
Mm.
So really good book. If you
Can we
guys
go back for a superpowers episode? I want to change my superpower to.
Have you guys seen that movie About Time? It's like the same
Yes.
idea. And he goes in the closet and he
Yeah.
gets time
So
travel, but
good.
same thing, like he chooses to go back and redo things that he was embarrassed about or,
Yeah.
something just things he wish would have gone differently. But then it ends up like taking his life in a really weird direction. So like he keeps going back and back and back. It's a really good
Right.
movie.
About time. Okay. So in
Yeah.
this book, he can only go back to that moment once. And the lesson along the way, well, one of the lessons is that you can't change love, basically. So if he has a relationship with a woman, and then he does some things wrong in the relationship and he tries to go back to fix them. But once you have like broken that relationship, you can't go back and try to fix it so that like that person will not love you again. Is
Mm.
is one of the
Oh,
caveats of this power. So anyway, I don't know how I got on that topic, but Twice by
sounds like a
Mitch.
good one to listen to.
Yeah, and it's not a very long read. I listened to it on the way up from Denver, driving up to El Paso. So yeah, it took like 5 or 6 hours to listen to it. So is there anything, do you guys think that you're not doing, or anything that's like holding you back, that would make your life feel like it's unfinished, or like
Oh,
you're not
yeah.
living it to the best of your ability?
Absolutely. Definitely. My
So what?
unfinished would be not mending certain relationships. Lack of forgiveness would
That's
be
a
a
big
big one
one.
for me.
That's a
That
big
would be a
one.
big.
Savvy,
Yes.
any thoughts on
I mean,
living an unfinished life?
I think that there are a lot of things that cause hard stops in life and trying to navigate and get past those hard stops. For me personally, I don't think that I'm living life to the fullest or ready for that great adventure.
Why?
You said why?
Yes. Why do you feel that? Or what makes you feel
Uh,
that?
well, just like I said, there's some hard stops. There's some barriers in life that kind of give pause, that kind of stop process. But navigating and getting around those things make it easier to get closer, I think. I think they not make it easier, but make it one step closer to that great adventure. I think life has a way of lifing, basically. Life has a way of lifing, and sometimes it causes barriers and hard stops for us to move on into that place of peace or happiness, or even seeing past those obstacles.
Yeah.
So I'm not ready for that great adventure.
Not well organized.
No. Still a lot of chaos to get through. Still a lot of life to try to navigate
Yeah.
through. I mentioned that, like, when you deal with mental illness, or when you deal with like the mental psyche, like your outward appearance, how your environment looks is how your mindset is as well. And so if your mindset is scattered and it's not in a place of even thinking about that great adventure, it's hard to even see that.
In Buddhism, we believe that life is eternal. So when this life ends, the life will begin again. And in Buddhism, we put a lot of emphasis, on the here and now, because the causes that we make in our life, through our actions, through our words, even our thoughts, things that we do, things that we fail to do are what creates the effect of even your present circumstances. We say if you want to see the causes that you've made in the past, look at what your life looks like right now. And if you want to understand the causes that you are making for the future, again, look to your life right now. So I guess for me, just to kind of wrap up this conversation, I think at the end of the day, it's not so much about the fear of dying or being ready to die, but it's about being at peace with how we're living today. So that is how I would wrap this conversation up.
I love that, Paula. I think, that kind of mindset it's really got me thinking. I'm gonna be thinking about this all week now. I think you just have to put different perspectives on sometimes, and sometimes you can get really wrapped up in your environment and how you're looking at things and what are some things that you can do to change your perspective, on that. And maybe doing that takes some of the fear out of it, because truly honestly, like there's a lot of those things that we just can't control anyway. Like we really don't know for sure. And we're trying to like hold on so tightly, but maybe if we can start taking those little steps, like you're saying, to shift the mindset. That's why I love
And
talking to you all about this kind of stuff.
that's why we do Sunday Sunday.
Yeah.
So go out there and live your best life today, everybody.
Absolutely.
Find your nest like we do here. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to us. And we wish you a happy Sunday Sunday.